What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Stars speculation video, and today we are going to be talking about Mega Evolutions in a possible Pokemon Stars or whatever else game. So the idea here is, last episode we talked about extra Alolan forms that could be introduced by saying, oh, we found some more, we haven't been to this area before and there were some new Alolan forms, etc. And I mentioned that the majority of the video is actually talking about Mega Evolutions and where they'd work better instead of extra Alolan forms, because Megas can be introduced by saying, we found new Mega Stones, which is a lot more believable than we found a new species of Pokemon that was never here before on this island that's very small. So Mega Stones could be introduced around the region as part of the plot. So Necrozma could, burst out of the ground, and obviously that brings up a lot of material, so you guys get the idea there. And in terms of this video, we're going to be talking about initially, what Mega Evolutions might happen, sort of thing. So whether they're going to go, give them to Gen 2, that'll work out, or whether they could go straight for Generation 7 and say this is like a sequel or remake to Gen 7, we are going to improve upon Gen 7. So talk about that for a bit and then look at actual particular examples. So in terms of what they would do, looking at Oras, we're going to use Oras as an example. We don't have a Pokemon Z to use, which would be nice to have, because then we could be able to compare it to, Pokemon Z gave Mega Evolutions to Generation 6 or Generation 2. We don't have that, unfortunately, so we are going to sadly just have to think about it ourselves. So if Pokemon Z were to happen, I believe that Generation 2 would have been what we're focused on, because going back to X and Y and Generation 6, we had Kanto was most of the Mega Evolutions, a few in Hone, and then a sprinkling in Sinnoh and above, but the main focus was on Kanto and then a few in Johto as well, which is sort of built upon, I guess, in Oras. But I believe that most of them would have been Gen 2, I suppose, because obviously the big ones are the starters. We have Generation 1 Mega Evolutions, we have Generation 3 Mega Evolutions, but we don't have Generation 2, it's a missing gap. So Pokemon Z introduced in Gen 2 would make a lot of sense there, fill in the gap, give you some Megas for Meganium and the others, as well as obviously sprinkling some Mega Evolutions throughout the rest of the Generation 2 Pokemon, because take a quick look through, I've got to remember off the top of my head which Pokemon have Mega Evolutions or not. Ampharos, of course, has one, so that's one for Generation 2. Scrolling through quickly, of course, I don't think there's many more, really. Steelix, that's the second one there. Sizal, that's 3. Heracross is 4. And I think that's basically it. Houndoom is 5. But I think that's it now. It's my last one. Yeah, so 5 Mega Evolutions for Generation 2 currently. Obviously, most of those were introduced in X and Y themselves. So obviously, Houndoom was. Heracross was, remember it says Steelix, of course, was Oras, so that is one there. Sizal was obviously X and Y, and then the first one, Ampharos, was X and Y again, so only one Generation 2 Pokemon introduced in Oras, so there's not many in Generation 2, so I feel like in a Pokemon Stars game, you could sprinkle most of your Mega Evolutions in Generation 2. Obviously, we'd have to look at the Generation 2 Pokemon that were in the Alola Dex, because that would give us a better idea of what could possibly get Mega Evolutions there. But I feel like Generation 2 would be the main focus. You could then sprinkle a few, maybe 1 or 2, across Generation 1 and Generation 3. I feel like they're pretty top heavy with Mega Evolutions already there. Of course, Generation 1, popular gen, so obviously it's got a lot. And Generation 3 has Oras, and there were quite a lot of Generation 3 Megas anyway. So there's a lot of Megas there. Generation 4 has a few, not many at all. I think Lucario is one, Lopunny is the other. I think that's it. So obviously you could sprinkle maybe 1 or 2 in Generation 4. Depends on, of course, if they are planning a Generation 4 remake. Of course, you can watch my Down and Poe remake speculation videos for that. Because, of course, if they're going to have Generation 4 remakes, there's a big chance that some Generation 4 Pokemon will get Mega Evolutions if they carry it along. So they wouldn't want to double it up there. And you could maybe sprinkle 1 or 2 in Generation 5. And maybe even go further to, have 1 or 2 in Generation 6. Possibly, but the main thing here would be the Generation 2 starter Pokemon getting Megas. I also think you could have 1 or 2 from Generation 7. Looking at X and Y, of course, we have Mega Oras, really. We have Mega Diancie introduced for X and Y, hopefully part of Oras for Generation 7. So that's the Mega Evolution we have there. That's the only one, so possibly you could do 1 or 2 for Generation 7. It would probably be, special ones. So, for example, looking at the Megas and could get Mega Evolutions. Marshadow was one possibility, we don't know much about it, could get a separate form, and similar. Ultra Beasts are unlikely to get Megas. I feel like you do not mix that up into a different thing. Guardians are very likely to get them, I don't think. and obviously the main legendaries, probably not very likely to get them, of course, unless it's in the main game. So really you're down to Marshadow getting one, which is similar to Diancie there, because they're both mythical Pokemon, they both have similar things, so maybe Marshadow gets one. Beginner, probably not, since it's artificial. Necrozma, you could give it a Mega, because of course we have Mega Rayquaza. There's a link you could draw there, but generally I think it's, it's not very legendary, so Marshadow is the one they would give it to. You could also sprinkle one or two else. We had Ordino 4 as part of Generation 6, so it's the gen before, so maybe it's one or two Pokemon in Generation 6 could get a Mega, so I don't know, having a quick look through, you wouldn't give the starters one because that would be it for a future game, future remake, or I don't know, whatever else they want to do with it. Diggersby, possibly. Talonflame does not need a Mega. Pyroar, maybe, but maybe not. Florges, I don't know how to say that name, Floors. Possible there again. Pangoro, I think would pretty cool. It's in the yellow region, so might work there. Aegislash does not need a Mega. Malamar, possible. Barbarical, possible. Dragol, probably not. Chloritza, again, probably not. Heliolisk, possibly again. Tyrantrum Remora, or Aurorus rather. Fossils, still possible. Or Luchi, you could, taking a quick look through here. Trevenant, Gorgeist, maybe, who knows. Gudra, probably not. Avalugg, probably not, etc. So maybe have one or two of those sprinkled in, but mostly for Generation 2. If we take a very quick slide through, of course, we have Meganium, Typhlosion, for Alligator. I feel like you either do them now, or you do them as part of a, Pokemon Stars rather, or Pokemon Diamond Pearl remakes. You've got to do them at some point, otherwise Gen 2 is just completely forgotten about. So I would say now's the time to do it. So those three there. Obviously you have all the Noctowl, Farret, probably not going to get them in general. Xatu, maybe. Who knows? Azumarill, I don't think it needs a Mega. I can't see it getting one, but it's a possibility because it's a fan favourite. Sunflora could go Mega. Of course, it's not in the Generation 7 or the Alola Dex, I should say. Slowking is though, and of course Slowbro has a Mega, so Slowking could very well be a Mega possibility there. Have a nice big shell on top of its head. And going further down, trying to pick out what is in the Alola Dex, from what I can remember. Granbull is, so one Mega Granbull is a possibility. Sneasel and Weavile are, so you could tip one to Weavile because it's related to Sneasel. Similarly there, and then go for Octillery, I believe, is in the Dex, so I think it is, I don't know. Anyway, Octillery is a possibility as well, I suppose. Skarmory is in the Dex, you could get Mega Skarmory. Then going further again, Donphan maybe, Smeagol maybe again. So there's a few there, obviously not going to go too in depth into these here. I feel like you could do most of the generation, or if you're going to give Generation 2 Pokemon Megas, you do most of them in a Pokemon Stars. Obviously there's not many Pokemon in Generation 2 anyway, so it's not like it's going to be over heavy Megas. Oh yeah, of course we have Mega Tyranitar as well, so that's like an extra one to my count from earlier in the episode, but you guys have already probably commented that I've forgotten it, oh well. But yeah, so I feel like if you're going to give Generation 2 Pokemon Megas, you do most of it in Pokemon Stars, so then you have Generation 1, Generation 2 and Generation 3 all floored out. Then you go to Diamond Pearl Remake, you do Generation 4, and then of course next generation, we in the far future of course, have Generation 5 Remake, and you can have Megas for Generation 5 and so on from there. So I feel like, yeah, this is the time to do Generation 2. There's not a huge amount of Generation 2 Pokemon that could get Megas, in my opinion. Of course there are, you could do anything really, but in terms of what you actually want to see, probably not a huge amount. So you could then yes, as I mentioned, sprinkle maybe one or two in Generation 2 or 3. You could look at giving Alolan forms Megas. We haven't discussed that too much. I generally think they're not going to mix the mechanics. Generally, even Pokemon with forms like Gastrodon are unlikely to get Megas because of the form. It would mean they have to do basically 2 Mega Evolutions or do some fancy thing to make it up. So I feel like, yeah, that's Alolan form, Mega Evolution, separate mechanic, not really going to happen, not going to mix over. It'll be interesting because of course you can have a Mega Ninetales that is fire. You can have a Mega Alolan Ninetales which is Ice Fairy, and you can have different sort of abilities and use them in different ways. So similar to normal Alolan forms, just with the added Mega Evolution to it. But unlikely probably. So as mentioned, Generation 1 and Generation 3 do not need any more Megas, so Generation 4 is where you sprinkle a few. This might be the time where you give one of the Generation 4 starters a Mega, as they did with Blaziken for X and Y, hinting that the Diamond Pearl remakes are coming. So Torterra, Infernape or Empoleon. I felt they do Empoleon. We've had Blaziken before, so do Empoleon. Makes a lot of sense there. And then yeah, maybe sprinkle one or two more in. Luxray is one people are crying out for. You could either leave it for the Diamond Pearl remix, or you could throw it in now as a teaser. But of course it's not in the Alola Dex from what I remember, so looking at more Rampardos and Bastiodon are both in the Alola Dex, so there's one possibility there. You could also flow in, who knows what I'm trying to say there. Drifblim of course is as well. another possibility there. Hunch Grub is 2, and Mismanagers as of course as well, so a few more possibilities. You could just tease 1 or 2 Generation 4 Megas in there, and hope people catch on that, oh, we're getting a damn Poe remix, and there's going to be loads more of these and hypes, etc. So you just tease it out like with the Mega Blaziken, we got in X and Y, because that got people talking and thinking, well, why would they give us a Mega Blaziken and not Mega Swampert or Mega Sceptile? Aha, it must be coming in the remake. And then people will hype for Hoenn confirmed. So if that happens here, we'll get hype for Sinnoh confirmed. But yes, that's just a general overview of Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Stars. I'm not going to talk about particular plot points. I feel like if they're going to do it, you sprinkle a few stones around the region to begin with, and then you have after, so similar to Oras, after the main plot finishes, you can get some more sprinkled around by something to do in the main plot. Maybe the opening of wormholes to Ultra Space, if of course it happens again. That could be linked into imbuing the ground with some more extra energy. I've completely forgotten what the actual energy is called now, but you guys get the idea. They could work that into the plot, which would be pretty interesting, similar to Oras. But that is going to be it for today, so I shall be seeing you next time. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and of course don't forget to let me know what you think about this down below. Would you like to see some Megas in a Pokemon Stars possible game? Would you like to see them be Generation 2? Generation 7? Just go all out and give us some Gen 7 Megas straight off the bat. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think. But for now, this is going to be it for today, so I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.